Welcome back to another very long-awaited, I'll be honest, very long-awaited episode of Titletown Talk. I'm your host, Jackson Tolliver. The Celtics are one win away from claiming their 18th banner, and I could not be more ecstatic. I have to start off this episode by, acknowledging the fact that I haven't been on recently. I haven't made episodes recently. I have recently started working full-time at CLNS. If you don't know CLNS, they are a local Boston media company, Boston sports media company. I am so thrilled and blessed and honored to be working for them. But, with the finals around, I've been really busy just, producing content, grinding. I've been able to go to Patriots training camps, so I'll have some insight on that later on in the podcast. But, it's definitely been a grind, and I'm so grateful for it. I just honestly, with everything going on, haven't had time to actually sit down and record a podcast. So moving forward, as a way to help myself, at least for now, I'm not going to have set days where I'm doing recordings anymore. I'm going to, limit it to really just whenever I can, which hopefully, this summer when things start to slow down a little bit will be more. But anyway, I digress. That's just, just one little bit of housekeeping before we get into this. I don't believe I've recorded an episode since the Celtics actually won the Eastern Conference Finals. It's been that busy for me. Like I said, it's been a whirlwind. But here we are, up 3-0 after a incredible win last night. It was almost a very, very incredible loss where they almost, turned back into the Celtics of old and choked away a 20-point lead in the fourth quarter. That would have been disastrous, but they didn't. The Mavericks actually cut it down to 1 point, and the Celtics were able to, regain their composure, stick to the game plan, feed Tatum, feed Brown, trust their defense, and obviously the fact that Luka Doncic did foul out in the fourth quarter helped. Let's not sugarcoat anything. That helped. But here we are. We're as Boston fans, we are looking at our first championship since 2019. It's hard not to smile. It's hard not to, look back on this team and where it was just 3 years ago, where the Celtics were 18-21 with a similar cast of characters. Still Tatum, still Brown. We all remember that night where they lost to the Knicks on a buzzer-beating shot from R.J. Barrett, and Jayson Tatum said after the game, it's, you expect to be in the conference finals every year, and, implying that they weren't going to be in the conference finals every year. Obviously, they have been in the conference finals every year since then, and they've enjoyed tremendous success. But if you look at everything they've been through, a head coaching change, constant efforts by the national media and the local media even to inflict friction between Tatum and Brown, and cause a breakup there. Injuries. They've dealt with their fair share of injuries between Robert Williams, between Tatum in Game 7 last year, Kristaps Porzingis this year, dealing with some injuries. They have just been able to consistently be, over the last, few years, one of the best teams, besides that really low point that I talked about in 2021 where they got gentlemen swept by the Nets, and then the next year, halfway through, where things weren't looking so great. Ever since then, ever since the infamous Jaylen Brown tweet where he says the energy is about to shift, it has fully shifted for the Celtics. And, besides that really brutal Game 7 loss in Miami last year, it's just been all looking up. This is their second finals appearance in 3 years, and it looks like they're about to do it. Now, I really wish I recorded a podcast before this series started. I wish I would have been able to carve out time to do that, because my prediction has pretty much been spot on so far. I don't want to sound like LeBron or anything, saying that I knew that this would happen. No, I will be honest. I was thinking Celtics in 6. And to be honest, I was also thinking if it went to 7, I would actually take the Mavericks to win that game before the series. But when I say I was right, I think I was correct about knowing exactly how the Mavericks would be able to play, the limitations that they would have, and what I did overestimate was the power of Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, who have been so good throughout these playoffs, to just overcome some of the shortcomings that I had assumed would come with this team. And they're obvious, right? Playing a team like Boston is different than playing a team like Minnesota because of the spacing, right? When you're playing Minnesota, Rudy Gobert can't shoot threes. He can't be a threat from the perimeter. And that's where Boston kills you. So it's tough when you force a guy like Derek Lively or Daniel Gafford to play out on the perimeter, which you have to do against the Boston Celtics when everyone on the court at all times, hell, even Xavier Tillman, can shoot the three ball, right? Simple as that. So I thought that they would struggle in that regard because, beating Minnesota, while that is, no small feat, especially in the way that they did beat them, sent them home after their incredible postseason run, an incredible season overall. Boston is just a completely different beast that I don't think they are as well equipped to handle just because of the issues of spacing the floor. And you're relying on a incredibly talented backcourt, right? Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic are the reasons why Dallas is where they are. Simple as that. Yes, other guys have had huge moments. Other guys have been good, but they're not even in the playoffs without Luka and Kyrie. But when you put that offensive backcourt against one of the best defensive backcourts in NBA history, which is what the Boston Celtics have right now, they cancel them out to a certain effect. And then you're relying on your other guys to get shots going and get stuff going against the NBA Finals at their first time. While I think that Derek Lively, Daniel Gafford, I think these guys are good players, but it's tough to play in the finals at such a young age for the first time, especially when, some of these guys like PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford are coming from lottery teams, right? They've never even experienced playoff games. They just don't know what it takes to be in these moments yet. And they'll learn. I'm sure they'll learn. And the Mavericks have a long way to go to learn this. If, I'm not trying to get ahead of myself, but if they do lose this series, which seems like they're going to do, but this is what I thought would happen. I thought that those guys would struggle offensively, but I just thought that Luka and Kyrie would be able to win them 2 games. It doesn't look like that's going to happen. Of course, it still could, but it looks like the Celtics are going to sweep because, to be honest, in Game 2 and Game 3, those were the Mavericks' chances to win. Game 2, the Celtics couldn't throw a rock in the ocean in the first half. They just couldn't shoot at all. Wasn't falling. Found a way to win. Game 3, Mavericks came out to a really, really hot start. They had the Celtics rattled. I believe they were up 13 in the first quarter, something like that. And the Celtics were able to weather their constant storms. And they also came back from down 20, had all the momentum in the world, had the crowd behind them. And again, the Celtics weathered it. So the Mavericks had 2 chances to win that game yesterday. And obviously, if they do that, it's 2-1. It's a completely different series. We're talking about, maybe this thing getting tied up tomorrow night in Dallas. And now they're in a 3-0 hole, which no NBA team has ever overcome. And I think this just speaks wonders to the Celtics' maturity, their growth, their ability to, close out these games, thrive in these situations, which have just been such a struggle for them. And now they're fully able to do it. And here's the thing is, with Luka, I want to touch on, how he has really struggled defensively. We don't know how much of that is due to injury or how much it is due to he's just a bad defender. It may be a combination of both. But when you look at Tatum and Brown and the Celtics team, what makes them so good is their ability to play both sides of the ball. You can play offense, you can play defense. And Brad Stevens and the Celtics have built a team that is so good offensively and defensively. Like, Brad Stevens should be studied for years at NBA GM school for how he has built this team. And credit to Danny Ainge, too, for drafting Tatum and Brown, making the right choices when there were a lot of duds before and after those 2 guys that you could have went with. So credit to Ainge, of course, as well. But Stevens has added all these complementary pieces. White, Holiday, getting Horford back, Porzingis, trusting Pritchard, extending him, Hauser. So Brad Stevens has done a tremendous job with this team and just building something that works. And when you look at Tatum and Brown and the trajectory of this Celtics team, I don't think it stops at the title this year because there's no reason for it to, right? Assuming that they win tomorrow night and they wrap this thing up, or whenever they decide to win the series, I could see them taking tonight off and, winning it back at the Garden, whatever. There's no reason why this team is going to slow down anytime soon because, let's face it, this is Tatum and Brown's league now. It's as simple as that. They won the championship or are going to win the championship. This is their league now. It's a Tatum and Brown league, and the league yet again runs through Boston because guess what? They have no reason to shift anything around besides maybe Porzingis, which I'll get to in just a couple minutes. But White is going to get extended. Holiday, they already extended long-term. Tatum and Brown are obviously going to be here forever until they start losing. The only piece is Horford and Porzingis that have a little bit of uncertainty. We don't know when Horford's going to retire. He does have 1 year left on his contract. And Porzingis, obviously hasn't been able to play for the majority of this postseason. You may want to entertain the possibility of moving on from him. I don't know. But Tatum and Brown are here to stay, and they are just dominating. I hope that we're over at this point the absolute media disrespect and hatred that has been thrown towards Jayson Tatum, not just through the first 2 games of the finals, but all throughout the postseason. And frankly, all throughout the majority of his career. I hope that he can finally move past that with the ring, because once you get the ring, it's over. I guess there's an argument that if he doesn't get Finals MVP, people can still say he gets carried, whatever. If it goes to Brown instead, this is Brown's team, it's not Tatum's team anymore. I hope that Tatum wins Finals MVP just so that Brown can win Eastern Conference MVP. Tatum wins Finals MVP. It shows, how both of them work together. They need each other in order to function and win basketball games consistently in big moments, which is true. So I hope that they both get a Series MVP award. But I'm kind of digressing now. This is Tatum and Brown's league. There's no more hatred that can be thrown their way because they're going to win it. And at a historic rate, too. If they win tomorrow night, they've only lost 2 games throughout this entire playoff stretch. I think that's only beaten by the 2017 Warriors, who won 15 straight after starting off 1-1. But this is a historically good Celtics team. It would be their best ever playoff record, I believe, and second best overall record since the 86 team, which we all know with Bird and McHale and all that stuff, who were just absolutely dominant. But even they didn't have this record that the Celtics do right now, this playoff record. So they could go down as being one of the best Celtics teams of all time. And my point is, I don't see any signs of it slowing down. I don't see any team in the East, even when healthy, beating them. Milwaukee's the only one you could argue, but Dame's getting older. I don't know how that, what they look like next year. I don't know if Philly gets pieces, so I don't want to, speculate too much, but the Boston Celtics are going to be heavy favorites for a long time, and they have now shown that they can win. The narrative has been, we know that they're good in the regular season, we know that they're even good in the playoffs, but they can't get over the hump, and they took that to heart, and they are finally doing it and getting over the hump just miraculously. They are doing this. I will, clarify my stance on Kristaps Porzingis here. Porzingis is a great player. I think he's great for the team. I think the city of Boston has embraced him in a beautiful way, and he's embraced the city of Boston. I love having him. I think he's a great locker room guy, a great presence, but I wouldn't be shocked. In fact, I would be more shocked if this didn't happen, if there are trade talks entertained this offseason around him, just because the front office has the D. White extension coming up and the Jayson Tatum extension coming up, and those are 2 guys that you can't afford to lose. Obviously, Tatum goes without saying, but Derek White has been phenomenal. One of the true emerging stars this year in the NBA, just as a 2-way threat. I mean, when that shot left his hand last night, when I believe the Celtics were only up by 3 with a couple minutes to go, and he hit that 3, it's like you just know it's going to go in. And that doesn't mean that every shot's going to go in. You just always know with Derek White, the clutch shot is coming. He is just a player. He's one of those guys that thrives in the clutch, and that is so rare to find in the NBA, that he is just a shot maker. And yes, it helps that in the clutch, teams get paranoid and start, hyper-fixating on Tatum and Brown, forgetting that White is so good in the clutch. And, the Celtics have so many offensive weapons that it might be hard for them to sometimes account for all those guys. But, I mean, Derek White, there is something to be said for his ability to make big shots in big moments. And his defense goes, without saying. Second team all defense. Holiday and White have been the best defensive backcourt that I've seen in my existence, I think. I was born in 2001. I can't remember seeing a better defensive backcourt than those 2 guys. Derek White's one of the best shot blockers in the NBA. Jrue Holiday is probably the best perimeter defender in the NBA. And, what they can do on that side of the ball is just tremendous. And that's not to, to overshadow their offensive performances as well, because Jrue Holiday has been great offensively this series so far. He's a candidate for Finals MVP. I don't think he's going to win it. But he had a great game 2. He's the reason why the Celtics won game 2. And he has just been, he hasn't had a single turnover through the first 3 games as a guard. That's pretty remarkable stuff. So Jrue Holiday was really the missing piece here. But a lot of it is also internal growth, because if you boil down what the Celtics team has been through the majority of these playoffs, it's the same team as last year, but just minus Smart, Brogdon, and Williams, and adding in Holiday, right? And Holiday is a great player, and he's a huge reason why they are at the spot that they're at now. But it's also the internal growth of Tatum, of Brown, and Derek White, frankly. I mean, those three guys and their growth, and Peyton Pritchard, too. I mean, Pritchard hasn't been great in this series, but he's been huge in the regular season. Sam Hauser as well. But, I mean, he was really getting consistent minutes last year. But it's the growth and evolution of Tatum and Brown. I mean, Brown was just talking about it today in media availability. Like, he stunk up the court last year in Game 7, in the biggest game of the Celtics, of the Celtics' lives, right? The chance to make history, the chance to make the finals over the Heat, come back from down 3-0. Brown just was disgraceful in that game, and he knows it. He talked about it today. It kept him up at night. It drove him crazy. And this is the result of a man who is just determined to get better, who loves the game of basketball, and I cannot say enough good things about Jaylen Brown and his growth this season. It has just been tremendous to watch. I mean, he, to me, has ascended to a top 10 player in the NBA, and I genuinely think that. And Tatum, obviously. Tatum might not be top 5, but both of those guys are firmly in that 6 to 10 range. And that's what makes the Celtics so good. They don't have to be the number 1 player in the world to win championships. None of them do. It's how they play together, how they play with the other guys, that just makes them so strong. We saw that all throughout these playoffs. With Kristaps Porzingis going down, next man up. Al Horford had some great games. Tillman had a good game last night. Cornette had some decent games. O'Shea Brissett had some decent games. So it's always the next man up mentality. This team and their chemistry, they're so interlocked with each other, and it is just a beautiful thing to see. The vibes are immaculate this year, and it really looks like a championship is very, very, very imminent for the Boston Celtics. I didn't write notes for this. I just wanted to come on here and talk because I haven't talked about the Celtics in so long, and what they're doing is just remarkable. But I will move on because, they haven't won the series yet. I guess first I will say I expect them to win tomorrow. I don't see a world where Dallas comes out and beats them. Boston's just a better team, unless they really take their foot off the gas. But again, I don't think that's going to happen because the lack of urgency is something that I think that we've moved. Like, I'm confident that they've moved past that. I think that they're over that. So that's been great to see. And I have no reason to believe that the Celtics won't win a game tomorrow. I really don't. So I think tomorrow's the night. I think tomorrow, June 14th, is the night that Boston breaks its second longest ever drought, I believe, in terms of championships won across all 4 major sports teams. We haven't won since Brady in 2019. So a 5-year gap. I think it will finally be broken. And the Celtics are finally going to do this. And like I said, things are only looking up from here. They're only looking up from here. And I think the Celtics are going to be a very, very dominant force in this league for years to come. So buckle in, Celtics fans. It's only getting better from here. Let's move on. I want to talk about the Patriots because we haven't talked about them in a while. I've actually been very, very closely watching the Patriots at OTAs, at minicamp. A lot of it we can't really record when I'm there. Some of it I do, and I end up, posting that on CLNS Patriots Press Pass and, producing content for them. So be sure to check out CLNS, all the content on those pages, because a lot of that is me. Of course, it's also Amit and, some of the other guys that we have there. Very talented team that we have. But again, be sure to check that out because we've got a lot of good stuff going on over there. But I'll talk about what I've seen from Patriots camp. In my eyes, the first thing I will say is Drake Maye looks like the clear-cut starter. I think he's played better than Jacoby Brissett at times, particularly on Wednesday. I think he outplayed Jacoby Brissett. He's had some really, really impressive throws, like in tight coverage on some of your top guys like Gonzo, that just make you, it makes everybody gasp, realistically. And that's also helped by the fact that some of the receivers have really balled out so far. Jalen Polk has looked phenomenal. In my mind, he's a clear-cut starter week 1. I don't think that should be a shock to anyone when that happens. I've seen him make diving catches. I've seen him have some great route running abilities. I've seen him make some big plays. And, you don't know how that's going to translate over to an NFL stage, but he was great in college. I mean, that Washington team made the national championship, and he was a large part of why they were able to do that. Obviously, he wasn't wide receiver one on that team. That was Roma Dunze, who's with the Bears now. But you gotta look at how he's performing so far in this training camp, and I'll be honest with you guys, it looks good. He looks really good. Kayshon Boutte had a great had a great day on Wednesday also, which really just puts this whole wide receiver room situation in serious question. I frankly am not exactly sure what they're going to do because there's so many receivers on that roster and a lot of them look good right now. So if I were to break that down, you have your locks, which is Polk is a lock, Pop Douglas is a lock. Beyond that, I would assume that Kendrick Bourne is a lock. So that's 3. KJ Osborne, I would assume, is going to be a lock. Then you have Juju, Kayshon Boutte, Tyquan Thornton, and Javon Baker. I don't think I'm missing anyone. Tyquan Thornton, for me, is the first to go. He's been super underwhelming in his first 2 years with the Patriots, and he's super injury prone. I just think you got to move on. Oh, Nelson Aguilar. Also, no, sorry, not Nelson Aguilar. I'm totally blanking on what the guy's name is right now. Jalen Reagor. Sorry, not Nelson Aguilar. Jalen Reagor. I think Rager's gone, unless they use him in a specific special teams capacity because he is a good kick returner. I think Tyquan Thornton's definitely gone. I don't see a huge possibility that Juju's still there. I don't know because they would have to eat that money if they were to let him go. And he obviously is such a talented player that has played at a high capacity before. It just hasn't worked out for him so far in New England. So yeah, those 3 guys. And Javon Baker, I think, could be a practice squad guy. He's been limited so far in training camp. I believe he's dealing with a leg injury, so it's hard to really assess where he's at. But I mean, the unfortunate truth is that he was definitely outpaced during this minicamp because guys that are available to play showed out. Kayshon Boutte, again, 2 weeks ago, I would have said no way, practice squad guy at best. But with the way he's played, especially yesterday, I think there's a chance for him to have a role on this team. So, like I said, Polk is a lock. Pop Douglas is a lock. Those guys have both looked great. And then beyond there, I think Kendrick Bourne is pretty safe. He's a veteran guy. They just brought him back. And then beyond that, it gets a little interesting. KJ Osborne, like I said, would be my 4th pick. But again, I don't know. They're going to be off for a month now until they come back for official training camp at the end of July. So we don't really have much to digest in that department. But beyond that, I mean, I think they look really good at training camp. It's hard to judge because, you haven't played any actual competition yet, but the vibes just seem awesome. Drake Maye is doing a great job with these guys so far. Just, practice is fun. From what I've heard, because obviously this is my first time at minicamp at Patriots practices, the vibes feel way different from when Bill was there. They're more open with the media. Everyone just seems happier from what people have said. So that's fun. I think the vibes this year are going to be really cool. Obviously, it's a rebuild, so you don't really know what to expect with the Patriots in terms of where their progress is going to be. I think a lot of it depends on on where Drake Maye starts. Like I said, I could see him starting week 1 if he keeps this up. He looks really good in camp so far. But they brought in Brissett to be the starter week 1. I think he is right now the presumed starter week 1. And then Drake Maye sits back for a few weeks, but you never know what's going to happen. It'll be a very, very interesting story to watch in training camp. Let's move on quickly to the Red Sox. I'll be honest, and I probably should have checked. I don't know when the last time I recorded was and where the Red Sox were. I think it was before the Braves series. I'm going to try to briefly see if I can figure it out. I think it was before the Braves series. And since then, there have been some actual pretty interesting developments and some pretty great wins as well. I mean, they did beat the Braves 9-0. So let me see. I think it was the Braves. So they beat the Braves 9-0. They had a great game against the White Sox the night after, and then had some pretty bad losses. I mean, this is what you'd expect from a 500 team, to have some pretty good losses and some pretty good wins. But tonight they're playing the Phillies. They're split with them 1-1 so far. It's at home. I don't, it's like with the Red Sox, I never know whether to take them because I don't know what team is going to show up. And then they have the Yankees series next, which is obviously going to be huge. I don't expect the Red Sox to win that series. I think it'll probably be 2-1 Yankees. Hopefully the Red Sox can at least get one. The Yankees have just looked so good recently. I mean, they have just looked so dominant. But let's talk about some of these individual guys on the Red Sox. I want to start with David Hamilton, the shortstop who was called up from AAAs earlier this year. Hit a home run in his first at-bat, I believe, and then really kind of slowed down. He's been playing great these last 2 weeks. Specifically, I believe he has 2 hits in each of his last 4 games. He had a really nice 2-run home run last night. He's been stealing bases. I've been really impressed with what I've seen from him. Devers has obviously been great this season. Jarren Duran has been tremendous as well. There was a play about a week or so ago where he was able to steal home plate. He has just been hitting triples. He has been using his speed to his advantage and just been able to be a really solid contributor for this team. Tyler O'Neill has kind of dipped off from his hot start at the beginning of the year, but you always get some occasional great moments from him. But yeah, I mean, this team, top to bottom, is starting to form. I really do believe that. I think it's starting to form. Rafael has also looked good. Jamie Westbrook has been decent. Connor Wong is, I would say a top 10 catcher in the MLB. So I see progress. Even though they are 500, they're only a couple games away from a wild card spot right now. It'll really only take like one really good streak for them to sort of solidify that spot and earn the wild card spot. They're not going to win division. I mean, let's be honest with ourselves. The Yankees are going to win the division for sure, and the Orioles are a good bet to be the first wild card spot. So, I mean, when you look at what you're up against right now, the Red Sox are 34-34. The Royals are 40-30, and the Twins are 36-32. So those are the 2 teams that you have to compete with, the Royals and the Twins, for that final wildcard spot. It looks like the Tigers are also 1 game off the Red Sox, and the Rangers are 2 games behind. So it'll probably be a tight race, but right now the Red Sox are just 1 spot outside of that wildcard race. We'll see how it shakes up. Obviously, I don't want to make any crazy predictions right now because there's still so much left in the season. And this summer, on this podcast, I'm going to be talking a lot about baseball because, NBA will be over. NHL has been over. Well, not the official Stanley Cup Finals, but the Bruins season has been over. And, Patriots for the next month are going to be a little bit quiet. So I'll be talking a lot about the Red Sox on this show for sure. But, I mean, my biggest takeaway right now with this team is hang in there. I know that people are frustrated. I know that John Henry had that ridiculous interview about a week ago where he said, well, I don't usually sell assets. Fans expect too much. They expect a championship every year, when in reality you have 1 in 30 odds. I said, come on, dude. We just want a team that represents the money that the Red Sox make, represents the history of the Boston Red Sox, and is, trending in the right direction. And to be fair, I think they have that right now. And, the farm system looks decent. Marcelo Mayer is allegedly going to be a super good star in this league when he's ready. But for now, I have high faith in the ability of this team to compete in years to come. I think they're 1 star away from doing that. I don't know if that star is going to come from a trade or a free agency move, or, Marcelo Mayer will come up from the farm system and just be remarkable. But for now, this team is serviceable at best, and I think that they have the makings of a wild card team that could potentially use some damage in the playoffs because they're just really hot and cold, frankly. They win one, they lose one, they win one, they lose one, and their wins, they've had blowout wins against great teams, and then they've had awful showings against awful teams. Like the White Sox broke their 15-game losing streak or something by beating them last week. So interesting stuff here. Like I said, first of all, I'll talk about tonight. I anticipate the Red Sox will win for some reason. I just think that they're going to win against the Phillies tonight. Going into the Yankee series feeling good, but then there's no way they can beat the Yankees in a 3-game series. In my mind, I hope to be pleasantly surprised. Obviously, everybody here hates the Yankees, but in terms of the Red Sox actual level of talent and their ability to compete with a team like that, Doesn't look good, in my opinion, but we'll see. I love to be proven wrong when it comes to stuff like that. Moving on, let's talk about the New England Revolution, who have actually now won 2 games in a row after a huge goal from Ima Boateng this past Saturday against New York Red Bulls. Before things are really starting to wind down here for the international break. International soccer, by the way, I am so excited for Copa America. The U.S. team just drew with Brazil yesterday, which is obviously remarkable. So yeah, the thing with the MLS is like there's not an official national break, which I think there should be in terms of like anytime soon, because we do have these tournaments coming up and some guys aren't going to be available. But they have a break that goes from like July to August where they do Leagues Cup instead. But the good thing with the Revs is that a lot of these guys that make their team good, Carles Hill, the likes of guys like that, don't play for a national team. So it actually benefits the Revolution that they are still going to be playing games until those tournaments are over. But yeah, it was a great win against the Red Bulls last week. Coming up, they got Vancouver at home on Saturday. I think this should be a win. The interesting thing with the Revs right now is that they've been without Shankali, and they're going to continue to be without Shankali as he's battling back from an injury. And they're playing better without him. So that's an interesting thing to keep in mind. I don't know if that's coincidental. I don't know if they've been better for a different reason, but that's just something that I've noticed. My biggest thing with this Revolution team has been the defense. Ivacic has been great in goal. That was a great pickup. I believe he played for Portland before, but he has just been a great pickup. He's been great in net. Some more stability for them. Carles Hill has returned to his great form. He had that great assist to Boateng in the last game that won them the game. And I think the defense has been better overall. I think they're finally starting to get settled in. It's always hard when you have a new coach, right? Or a new manager, rather, to establish your feet, no pun intended because it's soccer, and, be able to win games consistently. But the Revolution has something here. I really think they do. And I hope they do, because it's going to be a long summer if both the Red Sox and the Revolution suck all summer long. But I think both of those teams actually have a pretty good shot at being decent. I think the Revolution could make the playoffs. I mean, they have, 18, 19 games left, something like that. I could see them sneaking in to a playoff spot. I really could. I mean, how far away are they now? They are currently still last place, but that means they're only 6 points off of a wild card or a playoff or a play-in, basically, spot. And then, above that's Columbus with 24, so New England's 11 points behind them. That will be a tougher mountain to climb, but you never know what's going to happen. I think the Revolution have a decent chance at putting together some wins here, but we'll see, because they've also had some really awful moments this season, and you never know what's going to happen, but I feel good about it. I'm going to wrap up because I got to get back to work and my throat is starting to hurt. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning in. I will be sure to record an episode after this series is over, just to, look back on the Celtics season, look forward at the Celtics offseason. I just really want to make sure that I recorded today in the midst of this final series because it's obviously important to me. So I appreciate, the few of you who listen for your patience, and I promise I will be more consistent now that I'm, sort of getting settled in, especially after these finals with my new job and everything like that. Thank you so much, as always, for listening to Title Time Talk. I'm your host, Jackson Tolliver. I will see you when I see you.